Let them know it's Halloween. Hit it!
I wouldn't change places with anyone tonight. We'll carve pumpkin faces and watch the witches' flight. Every human heart will shudder. Every soul will shake with fear. Tonight, the creepiest. Tonight, the scariest. Tonight, the most wonderful. The year anything can happen on Halloween. Your dog could turn into a cat. There may be a toad in your bass guitar, or your sister could turn into a bat. Christmas time brings the snow. Summertime brings the sun. But on Halloween, your blood begins to run. Something spooky going down. Anything can happen on Halloween. It's better than a video. Gremlin's gonna mess up every cassette from London to Idaho. April 1st can be fun. New Year's Eve is a bore. But on Halloween, your flesh begins to grow. Oh, I'm losing control. Anything can happen on Halloween. Your toenails grow long and your hair turns green. Your teacher could become a sardine. Your dentist could turn into a queen. Has anybody seen my tambourine? I may start playing big in the beginning. The craziest night you've ever seen. This hairy, scary, creepy, crawling
Hello, Reagan. I'm a friend of your mother's. I'd like to help you.
You might loosen the straps, son.
I'm afraid you might hurt yourself, Reagan.
I'm not Reagan.
I see. Well, then, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
If you're the devil, why not make the straps disappear?
That's much too vulgar a display of power, Karras.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Show me Reagan and I'll loosen one of the straps.
Your mother's in here with his card. Would you like to leave a message? I'll see that she gets it.
If that's true, then you must know my mother's maiden name. What is it? What is it?
possessed by a demon. Oh, it's okay. He's gone.
That was sick.
I'm better now. It's okay. He's gone.
He's gone
Like
now.
she had a fucking cold or something. I was possessed by it. It's fine.
See you in hell.
That's a good contrast, though, because
Oh,
that's
of
where we're
course.
going. We're going to the peak, to the plateau, or what do they call it? The valley.
Yep. From the peak to the valley. So, yeah, that scene in the second movie is pretty much encapsulates that whole movie to me, really. And that scene in the first one, the same way, but for two completely different reasons. So it'll be interesting to talk about both those.
Yeah.
For sure.
And, you know, this is a concept that we kind of come up with way before the newest movie was out, this show. So we're going to discuss, for the first time, all of us, Exorcist Believer towards the end of the stream. So that'll be fun.
Don't stop.
I'm just going to tell you right
There you
now. I'm glad you put Grim Reaper in there because it's been a while since Stephen Grimm.
You got to
has
have
been
some
a-
Grim Reaper now. Come on.
That's a dude, man, that like I don't think I've ever heard anybody else hit notes like that guy hit, even in like the hair metal genre. Like
you're
there's
talking
no
What about Sweet?
Sweet?
Michael Sweet.
Wait,
From Stropper?
Oh, baby.
oh my god. We're gonna fucking talk about we might as well talk about Striper. This is the perfect like thing to talk about it in. Yep.
Yeah. So this will be an interesting one though, because we were talking about before Believer came out. Is The Exorcist real? I mean, it technically is a franchise, but is it really, guys? So we're going to go through all the movies, the curse of the franchise. So I don't want people to get confused. And there's like a cursed films on The Exorcist, which was a stretch. I think I went back and watched that. That's not really. Yeah, Damien Karras's mother died. That was in it, but she was like 90 freaking years old.
Yeah, it was not like a
That's not a big surprise. So, but anyway, we're going to go through the chat real quick here, and then we will get started. I don't know what the hell's going on with this camera.
Yeah, it's been fucking up here lately.
I'm gonna have to get me a new webcam or something. But anyway, Jackson Jack Vanderhoff 66FU Radhammer is in the house. He said, "Do you guys know that The Exorcist only has a 78% on Rotten Tomato? Saw 10, for Christ's sake, has a higher average."
Well, that's probably because of like newer. The majority of people that use Rotten Tomatoes are like younger, and I'm sure that they go back and look at that movie now, and it's like they just
Boring.
like, what's the big deal? Yeah,
Yeah, they're probably like, it's slow. A lot of people say that.
I just, don't even get me started, man. Like,
Adrian James is in the house.
The Exorcist is slow. Fucking wait till we get to Dominion.
Yeah. No, The Exorcist is
God
not slow at all, but we will talk about some slow movies here in a little bit. Adrian James, Hook's Pop Culture Cafe, the
What up,
mayor.
Hook?
Rob Halford can hit some high notes, no doubt. Rick Rage is asking about the Halloween 3 cap. My buddy at Inked Up merch on Etsy, which you can get the same exact hat on there, and he does the Dead Pit hats as well. So we'll try to balance the color out a little bit here. There we go. Maybe
looks better. Yeah.
Okay. Fucking lighting, boss. Worried about lighting. Jackson Jack didn't realize Dominion in the beginning were the same movie, and then they reshot. It is a different movie with. Is it a few of the same actors? I thought it was the very uncharismatic Stellan Skarsgård.
I think it's mostly just Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah,
Right. I think he was the only one that was recast, and there was a variety of.
The girls were different. The woman that I forget.
I think they were all different aside from him. And
so I know the priest was different. I know that there's a whole other kid in it that wasn't even like
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the woman I think is different. Like I don't think
Yeah.
it's the same woman. I can't believe I fucking made it through those movies, to be honest. To even be able to talk about that, but
those are, and we're going to go through these and kind of give an unofficial ranking here too. Those are unwatchable, really. Those are unwatchable movies. Both of those movies are. And to be quite honest with you, this was the first time that I ever watched either one of those all the way through.
Yeah, me too.
Very, very difficult to get through those movies.
I'll tell you something that you might not know though. Garrett loved both of them.
I actually saw the beginning in theaters the night it came out. I know that much. It's tough because even just rewatching them now, and we'll get to it, but I didn't do it in one sitting. And then all of a sudden I went back and I started to get the two movies confused again. So I was like, shit, like which one did this happen in? Like I started mixing them up because you got the same main character. And all of a sudden now I'm like, wait, did this happen in this one or was that the other one? Like I still was getting confused as I went, but
one thing that's consistent is the CGI hyenas are in both.
Yes.
So
yeah, we'll talk about it.
That's in both versions. Money Saving with Mimi is in here. Hi, everyone, she says. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hey, Victor.
With this because it's a grand total of, what is it? 6 movies we're going to talk about.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, 6 total, including the new one. And then the TV series, we're going to touch on that a little bit as well. I've not seen it, but I do have the teaser trailer ready so we can get an idea of what it was about. It. From what I saw the photos, it didn't look like it was going to be that great either, but maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, the early beginning of The Exorcist comes from the novel, right, Uncle Bill? 1971, William Peter Blatty. It was a very successful book, which of course a couple of years later turned into an extremely successful movie.
So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, we're going to talk about this movie as well, but I think that this show is primarily about those sequels. But those sequels would not exist if it wasn't for this.
The original, yeah. So the Exorcist book is based on Blatty, and I believe he went to Georgetown or somewhere like that. And while he was there, like he heard a story about a kid who was possessed by a demon, and the church had to perform an exorcism. And in this case, it was a boy. It was like a younger boy. And he just, for some reason, that idea stuck with him. And he tried to get information from like a lot of the Catholic priests around about like, you know, what happened and exorcisms in general. And nobody would ever talk to him about it. And so from that point, he knew that he was onto something. So he like started to write the book, and the book became what it was. He changed around some of the things, but a lot of it was based upon, and I think at that time, which just goes to show you like what kind of influence movies have on people. At that time, there had only been like 2 confirmed exorcisms in the US, like, and the one that with the boy was one of those. So, I mean, I'm sure after The Exorcist came out, there was probably like thousands, but at that point,
there's on YouTube. Now, I think this is a Russian girl. Is her name Annalise or something like that? Is like from the 40s or 50s. Is a recorded exorcism on there, right? And I think that tape is what inspired, you know, the voice and everything of the possessed Reagan character. What was the McCambridge lady?
Mercedes McCambridge.
Yeah. Which is interesting to go back and now, because I think it's some other language, like Russian or whatever.
Sorry, that comment.
Yeah. Steve.
Poor old Steve.
He gets it every fucking time, no matter what the show is.
Did you hear though that Steve got an injury?
Yeah,
now what happened to him?
He does have like a scar on his upper lip. I think he was trying to suck the chrome off of the trailer hitch, and he hurt himself.
I didn't know that. He was
going too hard at it.
That's fine. Yeah. We can't talk about it because this is a dual stream, I think. So let's just say
there's nothing wrong with that. He's trying to get the chrome off of it is all.
Yeah.
Is all.
Yeah.
That's all he was doing.
The Predminator, what is that? Brian Sanchez, Rick Rage.
Anyway, to move it forward a little bit, because I'm kind of a buff about Friedkin's Exorcist. I've watched everything that I can watch on it and watched a lot of his interviews and stuff too. So he's Friedkin, I mean, comes into it. He's at a meeting with who's the guy that did the Pink Panther? The movie The Pink Panther, and he was a real famous director. Blake something. Anyway, somebody from the chat will get it. He's at a meeting with that guy talking about like that, you know, that he wants him to direct one of the films that he's written.
Robert Blake.
No. And William Peter Blatty is in that same meeting. So basically in the meeting, Friedkin tells this really famous director, he's like, what you're trying to do here is a piece of shit. And he said William Peter Blatty followed him out the door after that and was like, you're the only person that's told him, Blake Edwards, that's who it was, that you're only the person that's told him the truth, that this movie is like really awful. So like, I just want to thank you because like, we know it's awful, but like nobody will tell him that. So you fast forward years later when he writes the script for The Exorcist and he's thinking about who he wants to direct it. Supposedly he remembers Friedkin, and like that's the guy that he wants, and that's how Friedkin becomes the director.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I actually like that Friedkin tells it how it is. I actually think a lot of people may think it comes off like a prick, but I actually think it comes off like he sounds smarter than everybody else, to be honest with you.
He is, though. The weird thing about Friedkin is he talks like a great game and everything, but if you listen, he knows a lot about like art, culture, music. Like, I mean, the guy is insanely intelligent, and he's also insane. I mean, as you can, we talk about some shit that happened in this film.
The story about the soundtrack too, because Bernard Herrmann, I think, was one of the original choices to do the soundtrack. The guy that did the score for Psycho, most people know him for. And he was another one that told him this was a gigantic piece of shit. He was going to try to save the movie with his music and everything. And he gave him all the ideas of what he wanted to do. And he was like, no, I appreciate you talking to me, but nope, we're not going to use your music. And he went and like, I think that Mike Oldfield record was already out and he had heard it and was like, this is what we want. This is the song. And ultimately, like, I think that song led to a ton of classic horror soundtracks and scores and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
That was the first really of the modern era, the Tubular Bells and, classic spooky ass. And it was originally just like a progressive, like 13-minute song or something like that.
Oh yeah. Right? If you listen to the whole song itself, it's crazy because that part is only like a very small part of that song. It goes like to 1,000 different places. It's like a prog rock song from that time period, and it's nothing like that. That's just like one little part of it. But something about The Exorcist II and the soundtrack, there's not really like a discernible score in it if you think about it. Other than that piece of music, like there's little like stingers and things like that when shit happens, but like you barely hear anything other than the dialogue or what's going on in the movie throughout, except for Tubular Bells. And then a couple of like instances, like when you see the "Help Me" written on her thing, and and the violin music comes in and all that. There's a couple of things like that, but that's really about it.
So continuing on with the first movie, though, Garrett, do you remember the first time that you saw The Exorcist?
To be quite honest, I think the first time I may have seen, no, that's not true. It was one of those movies that my uncle's like still afraid of. Like he was, I remember him saying he saw it in the theaters. So he was always one that kind of really built in my head, like how scary this thing was. And I may have seen bits and pieces of it, but a part of me almost even feels like I saw it for the first time when it came out in theaters in 2000. I think I may have seen it for the first time then. I knew about it because he kept talking about it. And then I remember going to see a movie, and there's a trailer came out saying that it was getting re-released, and it said like the scariest movie of all time is getting a re-release, like you've never seen it before or something. And then when that came out, I actually went twice to see it in the theater. And then after that, I just, I bought it on DVD, and then I went back and snagged a couple of the older ones, like the other version from before.
Well, I think that re-release in 2000 really introduced that movie to our generation, really, because the movie was out, the VHS was out and everything. But to me, that wasn't a movie that was referenced a lot when we were kids, and it wasn't like one of those dare movies like Faces of Death or something like that, where people are like, oh, you've got to check it out or whatever. And then that re-release, the marketing behind that, which was genius, they included the infamous spider walk scene, which ultimately is not that important, but I mean, it was kind of legendary for anybody that knew anything about that movie. They always wanted to see that scene, and it was going to be added back. And really, for the horror genre, that has to be the first big re-release movie of the time, right? I mean, in theaters, they didn't really do that a whole lot back then.
I don't remember it ever happening, at least as far as I remember. I mean, I used to go to the movies a lot back around that time. It was like a weekly thing. I feel like any horror movie, I was always there like day one. And like I said, I remember when that trailer hit and it said it was coming out again. I was like, oh my God, I remember telling my uncle, and he was excited because it had, like you said, the spider walk scene and whatnot. But yeah, I think that was my first introduction to it, as far as seeing it from beginning to end. And like you said, it wasn't something that used to be on TV and stuff, because that's where I saw a lot of the horror movies as a kid, was like when they made their way to TV, like they would do like all the Friday the 13th or something like around Halloween, and I would just binge all those. Like Exorcist wasn't one that I don't think ever crossed my path that might have been on TV around that time.
I just remember it as always being the movie that like older people, like my parents and things like that, would talk about as being like, oh, you don't want to watch that. Like that's way too.
It's on another
much.
level for you.
Yeah, because that was that movie for their generation. You know what I mean? Like that was the movie that like scared the shit out of everybody. Like, and people would go in there and faint and puke and stuff like that for real at that time period. And so that's what I always heard growing up. And that's the main thing that I remember about it, is like I was really like kind of terrified to watch it. And then when I did watch it, I think I was probably, I don't know, 17, 18, something like that for the first time. I was kind of disappointed by it, honestly, the first time, because like I was so used to watching shit like that, like Friday the 13th.
Kind of just smacks you in the face real quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it just, and it bothered me. Like some of the religious, stuff bothered me, of course, at that time, because like it was, it is what it is in the movie. But overall, I just remember being and I was also though disappointed by Texas Chainsaw when I first watched it. I was like, God damn, this movie is boring and nothing really happens in it. It's like you can't really appreciate, I don't think, movies like that when you're a teenager. Like they just don't. You have to.
I'm with Garrett though. I think the first time actually that I saw The Exorcist was the version that you've never seen when it hit DVD, because this is around the time period when I was picking up like every horror DVD that was coming out. And I was like, well, man, I don't, I was probably what, 20, 21 years old at the time. And I'm like, I need to finally check this movie out. And I got the, similar impressions. Like I wasn't totally blown away by it. It was more cerebral type of a movie. But man, when those scenes kick in, the possession scenes and some of the dialogue and everything, and you got to remember this came out in 1973, and some of the stuff that they got away with, and the MPAA allowed it because it was kind of like a good versus evil sort of thing, and they were the MPAA were Christian based company at the time, pretty much. So I mean, I guess that's how they got away with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite in the sense that I think my uncle, being the one who really got me into horror, he's really into like slow burn type stuff, some of his favorite movies. So when I saw The Exorcist, I loved it. Like I didn't think it was boring. I know people that did think it was boring, that I introduced it to a little bit later. And it was slow, but I mean, the movies that he was showing me all the time were like Rosemary's Baby, Phantasm, Salem's Lot, where there are more long drawn out stories before things really start happening. So I was kind of used to that style of horror, Amityville and all that stuff. So um I really liked it. I think the scene that still bothers me the most is when she's in the doctor's office of the hospital and they're like sticking the needle in her neck and stuff like that. Like I still feel that that's the one that really like gets me all the time, is like that whole scene where she's getting all the tests done and stuff. And I can remember in the theater when I saw it for the first time, and that still was the scene that was kind of like, ooh, as they're jamming the needle
Well,
in her
there
neck and the blood
to
spraying out.
me, there's at least a dozen scenes in that movie that are kind of classic, and that's definitely one in terms of like making you uncomfortable. That's definitely one of them. Also, the scene where Karras's mom comes up out of the subway.
Oh yeah.
He's having like the nightmare, and like he can't get to her, and she goes back down into the subway. Also, the one where she's in like the sanitarium or whatever, and she's like, well, why you do this to me,
Do
Demi?
me, Damie, why? Yeah.
Why, Demi?
And
like,
that's legit. Like, well, I haven't been in one of those facilities, but like nursing home. They kind of run up to you just like they did in that movie. So if you'd ever experienced that, there's a level of realism in Exorcist that not a whole lot of those other classic horror movies from that era have. And the final 15-20 minutes of The Exorcist is one of the only horror movies that I can think of that puts you in that fucking room. Like you feel like you're a part of it.
Yep.
And that's very, like, I don't know how he did it. It's very difficult to do. I can't think of another movie offhand that does that.
I just think it was where he was a documentary filmmaker first. And like that was his whole approach, was like, to capture stuff spontaneously and make you feel like that you're like right there, like in a documentary. And I think that's what separates that film from like all the other films from around even that era, the 80s or anything else. Like it was filmed as realistically as possible given the subject matter. So it still feels to this day like the shit's actually going on, like when you watch it.
And even in that room, there's a couple things that I always think. You always feel like cold, like you have a sense of it being cold. And I always feel like there's a sense of smell, like what it smells like in there. Like, and a lot of, movies never make you think that way, where it's almost like you can like picture what it must smell like in there, like by the way the steam's hitting and like when the stuff's leaking out of her mouth and stuff like that. It's just, it's just a great, great film.
And that's we're not even taking into consideration the fact that like probably one of the greatest voice acting performances ever in a movie. Like in terms of Mercedes McCambridge, like that voice that comes out of Linda Blair. I mean, it's not Linda Blair, but it's like, that is just insane. First of all, it's insane that it's a woman. Second of all, it's insane that anybody could make that, like those kind of noises.
They just recorded her freaking breathing. Something else that's interesting that I remember about The Exorcist II, Jason Miller, who was Father Karras, almost was not. They had already hired Stacy Keach.
You imagine that movie with fucking Stacy Keach in it.
And
they
ended up paying him. He was paid because they had already signed him and everything, and Warner Brothers was like, hey, this is what we're going to do. And Friedkin was like, nope, this is not Karras. I found my Karras. So he convinced them to go with Jason Miller and pay Stacy Keach.
Because he looked like a boxer.
Yeah,
but he had won the Academy Award the year before, though, right? So like, 71 for French Connection? 72.
Yeah, that was the movie that was like right before The Exorcist. So he could have done whatever the fuck he wanted. I mean, he could have shit on the floor in there and they would have let him do it at that point.
When we're talking about the curse of the Exorcist franchise, we're not talking about the original movie. The original movie is definitely not cursed. $12 million budget, had a worldwide box office of $441 million in the early 70s. And I looked this up because I'm like, what the hell would that be now? over $3 billion.
And you could, if you go back, there's footage too on YouTube of people like winding around the corners, you know, to see this movie. Like, and there's all kinds of footage of it because it was a phenomenon at that time. Like, people were like, you know, lined up for days sometimes. Like, they would camp out to watch it because it was like nobody had ever seen anything like that at the time.
Yeah, and you know what is funny too, and I just don't know if it's the movies that come out now, like in comparison to before, but I mean, I do remember, not as big as that, but going to movies as a kid and going to movies even as like a teen and 20-year-old, like the first night and waiting in lines outside the building. Like,
I
to
do
get
too.
in,
I
you know,
remember,
and I don't ever see that kind of stuff happening now.
it'll never happen again like it did then, Garrett, because nobody gives a shit to go to the theaters. You know what I mean? But like, I specifically remember the line for Batman, the 89 Batman, like waiting in that damn line, and it just taking like, probably took an hour, I would say, to get up to the box office.
It could have very well been Batman, because I knew that there was one that we saw in this theater that's closed down that was near my house before, and Batman was the one that we saw there. But you know, I'm also thinking of different ones that we saw around that time. But I can remember standing outside because my brother like dialed 911 on the payphone that was like outside one of the buildings, and the cops like showed up. And yeah, dude. He was like just messing around with it, I guess.
Yeah.
He was like, let's see if this works.
And like, I remember my dad was so mad at my brother for doing that because they like pulled up and they're like, was someone dialing? And but yeah, so I mean, I don't know what movie that could have been. It could have been Batman, to be honest. But yeah, I just remember being out in the cold waiting to get into those theaters. And even like for something like, I could be wrong, but when I saw Rob Zombie's Halloween on like midnight the night before, I feel like there was a line going out the building to see that.
Mm-hmm. That was very popular. You know?
So it's just crazy to see that, how different things are now.
I've never, like, the most you'll ever wait in a line now for the last times that I've gone to a theater is maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Like, there might be 4 or 5 people in front of you. It seems to be the norm now.
Going back though, don't you wish that they would have followed our advice, Uncle Bill? This movie, right? Remember this?
Don't go messing with the Ouija board. May hear voices from the dark lord. The thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm Hellord had great albums. Yeah.
So all this would have, Reagan wouldn't have any problems had she not gone messing with the Ouija board.
That's kind of a throwaway thing in the movie too. I don't even know if people remember that much, that there was a Ouija board in it.
In the basement.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a weird.
Captain Howdy. He was in Strangeland.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why Strangeland is not out at all.
He has a
nobody needs to see that movie either.
What? Come on,
don't you dare fucking come in here and defend Strangeland.
No, I thought Strangeland was good. I can't. I would actually look forward to get released. D. Snyder?
It's not that bad. I'm fucking with you. It's just because of D. Snyder. I really just don't want to see D. Snyder in anything. I don't want to see D. Snyder do well.
D. Snyder's got like this spot that's on syndicated radio every day called the House of Haircut or something like that. And at the end of every episode, he plugs his stupid book, like whatever his latest book is. He goes, "Oh, it's a great read. You're gonna have to check it out. It's a great summer read, dude."
I love it. So Strangeland is kind of a spin-off of The Exorcist, right? Because Captain Howdy does that movie. Is that the spin-off?
He definitely was influenced by that movie. I mean, in terms of just in general. But
I can't believe Captain Howdy took that role. Yeah.
Weird.
I think that's probably why Strangeland is not out on anything. I think they got in some trouble.
I'm fine
for using that name.
For using that name, yeah. Yep. So continue
progress to one of the greatest sequels ever made.
Continuing on. Oh yeah. So William Peter Blatty and William Friedkin had tried to get together to maybe come up with a concept for Exorcist II, and just really couldn't come up with anything worth really doing. So they abandoned it, right? But the studio, I mean, and I don't blame them, $440 some odd million in the early 70s. We want more, boss. Give us more. And
Jesus Christ.
man, it was like a difficult project to get started because, like, this was what 4 years after the original movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
John Borman, who
Mostly known for Deliverance, yeah.
right. Did he do anything else of any note?
Yeah, I mean, he let's see. That was his most famous film, but like
Great
he
movie,
did a
though.
couple of war films that people liked. He did Excalibur, which was like a
Like a medieval type thing.
yeah, medieval kind of romp that was popular around that time period too. But I feel like Deliverance might be his only movie that people would recognize as being a classic for sure.
Or good.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
this,
The Exorcist II, depending on who you are, because for some reason this movie has a giant like fan base.
does it really?
It really does, man. Every time we talk about
Garrett's
this
got
movie,
the special edition.
you wait.
Are you going to pick it up on 4K when you know it's coming from Scream Factory?
Probably not.
Why
But
not? You can see the James Earl Jones and the the Locust
maybe I'll
outfit.
maybe I'd watch it to see Blair in 4K.
Darth Vader turns into a damn cricket. Yeah,
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Well, this was the same year as Star Wars. Like I don't know the exact date Star Wars came out or anything, but yeah, 77.
Blew it out of the water.
Yeah, he had a big year that year. James Earl Jones did. Reagan, they had convinced Linda Blair to come back as Reagan in this, and man, she's really the best part of this movie because not only is she grown up, she's grown out, and I really, if anything, she's nice to look at. This movie is batshit crazy. And very difficult to follow. And that seems to be kind of a running thing with these Exorcist movies.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, like the first time that I watched this movie and we reviewed it for, I think it was somebody requested or did we just review it?
It was a sequelitis show.
Okay. I was like, I cannot believe that they made this movie, watched it, and then we're like, yeah, we'll put this out. Like this seems like
had a bigger budget than the original movie.
Yeah, 30 million, I think was the budget. No, I'm sorry, the budget was 14 million. It made 30 million, which was amazing in and of itself.
So in this one, Reagan, grown up 4 years later, she is seeing a counselor to help her cope with the events from the first movie. Her counselor is Louise Fletcher.
Awful.
Great actress. Excellent actress, though.
Yeah, theoretically, great actress. Awful in this movie. Like, go back and watch her in this movie. And it's like she just like was giving her lines right before she walked out on set and just read them. Like, there's nothing.
Well, how would someone really prepare for the? Could you imagine like trying to study the script for this damn movie?
It's so odd because I feel like for a movie like The Exorcist that did so well, talk about going so far the other direction. Like I feel like there wasn't a lot to this that really felt like the first one at all.
No.
And that's why it's kind of weird. Like, yeah, like why wouldn't they try to capitalize on what was working instead of whatever this was supposed to be? It feels like almost like a middle of a trilogy or something. It just doesn't feel right.
Here's what I heard, and this kind of helps to explain it to me. This makes sense to me. So there's an interview with John Borman where he talks about he wanted to make, and I swear to God, he says this, like a positive movie because he said he watched the first one and it was all just like torturing a teenage girl. He was like, I didn't want to make another film about torturing a teenage girl. I wanted to make a movie with a positive message that I guess includes locusts and shit. But like, that was his idea. And that's why I think the film feels so much different. Because it's not really like in the first one, I think Friedkin was really trying to capture the realism of what would happen like if an exorcism took place. And in the second one, it's like some sort of magical fucking journey into Oz where these locusts and grasshoppers and shamans and all this stuff, it's just a completely different tone to the entire movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is a huge difference in tone, and I tried to watch it again, and it's it is a very, very hard watch. Like, I mean, I love Blair and I love watching her, but I mean, other than that, the story is just, it's so random. I just feel like, you know,
You struggling up there with that camera?
That camera's a piece of shit.
I don't know what's going on tonight.
I'm gonna do a
Shit.
new review for that camera. It's like, anyway,
Is this a camera you got?
this is a camera that I bought probably
okay.
6 months
I thought you
ago.
might have got it to review or something.
No. But if somebody wants to send me one to review, it looks like I need one.
You can tell them it fucking sucked ass.
It's better than that one that I had. That one that I had sucked.
So, back to the Exorcist II. So, real quick, I just want to talk about this because this is one of the funniest parts of the goddamn movie, in my opinion. So she goes and she's seeing Louise Fletcher, who's like a psychiatrist, because Louise Fletcher believes that she's got these repressed memories about the exorcism that she needs to bring out for whatever reason. She seems to be doing fine, but for some reason, this psychiatrist wants to like make her suffer. And so she's got this thing that's basically like a headlight that just shines in and out, and it's supposed to hypnotize Linda Blair.
Here, I want to do that to my camera tonight here, boy.
That might do what it's like.
Come on, wake up, asshole.
And the whole thing looks ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
It's like 2.5 hours long too. This movie is, right?
Yeah, and most of it
Very
is
long.
really, really just boring kind of psychobabble kind of shit about like, all that stuff until they find out that, until they try to find James Earl Jones because he's some sort of fucking locust expert.
Yeah. Who's the actor? Richard Burton, who's drunk, right? He was alcoholic and he was going through a divorce with Elizabeth Taylor, I think, and he used this movie to pay for the divorce.
Wow.
That makes sense.
And there's a running theme here too. People struggling with their faith. That's a common theme. Like the priests and stuff. Oh, they're struggling, right? But he is sent to investigate the death of Father Marin from the first movie. And is kind of questioning Reagan, and that's the plot, I guess, and it's just a bunch of bizarre shit that happens along the way. This is set in the city primarily, right? Is this in New York City?
Yeah, it's in some city. I don't know if it's New York.
It's in a city, yeah.
Big city.
Georgetown, maybe? Is it in Georgetown? I want to say a lot of this shit's centered around Georgetown.
Kentucky. That's not that big of a city. I mean, Toyota owns it. So
yeah. No, you're right. It's away from there because that's where the original took place. So that's another weird thing about this movie. So Ellen Burstyn's not in it, so they decide that
she wouldn't do it. They tried to get her back.
Wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So they decided to write her out and say that this woman is like her guardian or something like that. This other woman. I don't know if like they're saying Ellen Burstyn beat the shit out. I don't know why she needs a guardian exactly. I'm sure
they had a fall out. You remember what they was talking about in the Believer movie? She had the book out and Reagan didn't want the fucking thing to do with her.
Yeah, because I guess she caused all that to happen. And
which I mean, again, is a pretty random yet good connection, right?
I figured that out whenever I watched. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's why she wasn't in part 2.
But they also, I think that was the whole thing with this, where like the sequels weren't supposed to exist in the Believer world, right? Technically. Which I mean, again, just like Halloween, it doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't change anything really.
The fact you just said the Believer world,
I don't think
that ain't no Believer world to me.
Here's what I don't think David Gordon Green knew the Exorcist movies.
I'm not sure he watched
aside from maybe the first one.
I'm not positive he ever watched one of them. But anyway, Linda Blair's running around getting like repossessed. The funny thing about that too is that she absolutely like refused to wear makeup in this movie, like the makeup that she kind of like wore in the first one. And so there's one scene where it's got her like, I don't know what happened there, where it's got her as,
yeah,
but and it's somebody else. Like I don't know who the fuck it is. But
they tried to recreate the scene from the the exorcism in the first movie.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, it looks like a scene from Repossessed or something. Really, I mean, it looks like a spoof.
But the Marin's in that
Mhm.
video.
Yeah.
So did he do
Yeah.
like a cameo, or did they just splice it from the old footage?
Oh, I think he was in it, right? They had him for like a day.
God, hold on. I could probably find out.
Somebody in the chat can. I think it was him.
I think it was
Yeah,
definitely him.
yeah, it was. You're right.
Okay.
Sidow's in it. Yeah.
He didn't have anything else to do. No.
So there's a succubus in this and a doppelganger and a bunch of other shit that I can't exactly remember. There's James Earl Jones flying around on locusts.
They go to Zimbabwe again.
They go to because Marin was in Africa. There's something about that too.
Take it away from you.
Like it's just a mess. And the ending of it, oh my God, man, the fucking ending of it. Like, don't they wind up back at that house? Like, isn't that the ending of the movie? They wind up back at the Exorcist house.
Why do I feel like?
I think so. Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like they were on weren't they like on a building or something? Or is that before?
Isn't Reagan having visions or something in her dreams in this movie too?
Yes.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. I didn't go back and rewatch this. This movie is bad. Like, we watched it a year or two ago, and I just went over my notes from then, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to torture myself another 2.5 hours, because 4 fucking hours of those prequels, boys. That's enough. That is enough.
Well, it's funny because this has 2 versions on here. So it's got the one version that's in 102 minutes, and
the
then
version you've never seen of this.
Did you watch both?
And then I must have watched the long one. It's 117 hours.
Well, you got to have that extra locust swarms in there.
Yeah, I gotta see that. It's definitely
that movie's beyond shitty, but there is almost
money.
something to it where it transcends shittiness, and at times it's so funny that it like is watchable. Which, when we get to these other movies, that's not the case. But like, it doesn't. It's got some really goofy shit in it. I'll say that that makes it kind of at least partially watchable.
It does, but it doesn't make up for the length of the damn movie. It's 2.5 hours long. Most of it is just drug, like, out in the road bullshit. Like, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this. I think Warner Brothers were just thinking anything that we put out that's got the Exorcist name on it is just going to make a fortune.
Yeah,
I think
you're right. Sure.
And I don't think it's good at all, but I honestly, like, I'm such a Linda Blair mark that I'm fine watching it, just because, like, I like anything that she's in, really. So
she was like 17 years old in this movie, right?
I have no idea.
I think she was very, very young in this movie, and this is when she started feeling out a little bit. I'll just say that. I don't want to get in trouble. But all of her movies from around this time period too, and this is when she started getting a little wild too, right? Didn't she date Rick James?
Rick James comes into it somewhere, and then it all falls apart. Yeah,
yeah.
Then she was like, you have Savage Streets, you have Roller Boogie, which is another really, really good movie if anybody hasn't seen that.
What was the other one too?
Summer of Fear was another good one. She started doing all those movies like Red Heat or whatever it was called, and
Caged Heat. Yeah,
there was 2, Caged Heat and Red Heat. I think she was in both.
She was in prison in that.
And you got the Sarah, the teenage alcoholic or whatever on that one.
Right.
Born Innocent was another good one that she was
I'm gonna
in.
tell you something right now, though. Savage Streets is still slept on. Like, it's still a movie. It's an amazing movie, man. I watched it again about a month ago, and it's one of the best exploitation films ever made.
Well, not only that, but it's beautifully made. Like, it's a gorgeous, like, the soundtrack is great in it. The cinematography is
amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Like, even that opening scene of them walking through the streets, like on the boardwalk or whatever that was with so good. Such a good, the music, the
Savage Streets soundtrack, they haven't been able to re-release yet, have they, on vinyl or anything? Just the old copies.
I just have the original old one. Yeah.
So that soundtrack, that's one of the best soundtracks. If you're a fan of like 80s rock music and stuff like that.
The fortunate ones to be fast and free and young.
I love it.
Yeah.
And that was remember how hard that movie was to come across on DVD for a long time?
Yeah.
It was like very hard to find.
I should have sold my
DVD.
It had a slip cover too. It was one of the early slip covers that I ever bought, the BCI Eclipse DVD.
Oh yeah.
That's another one that Felcher really like.
Felcher did the extras on it.
Yeah. And that was the first really available one you could get.
So as bad as Exorcist II was, though, 1977, $14 million budget, made $30.7 million.
Yep.
Which equals out to being 156.1 million today. So that's a pretty successful movie in 2023. 156 million. But continuing on,
please, Lord.
13 years later,
yeah,
they did The Exorcist III is what it ended up being called. It was originally just going to be called Legion because it was based on William Peter Blatty's novel. And the interesting thing that I'd read about this too, because Blatty, who wrote the original novel and wrote Legion, didn't want to initially, he wanted John Carpenter to direct this movie. Did you guys hear about this?
I didn't know that.
That was his choice. And then Carpenter dropped off of it because he thought that Blatty should be the one that directed it, not him. I would have been very interested in seeing what Carpenter's version of this movie would have been like.
I agree. I'm down for anything Carpenter.
Because it has that feel similar to like Prince of Darkness or something like that anyway. Like the same sort of vibe.
It does, yeah.
You know?
I'll tell you though, man, like George C. Scott is great in this movie, as is Brad Dourif. I think this is Brad Dourif's best performance, like overall. And he's had some fucking amazing performances over the years too. And he's a guy that, like, as a character actor, I think that not a lot of people even talk about him that much other than Chucky, but like he was a great character actor. And this to me is like his masterpiece. And also though, like I said, George C. Scott is insanely good in it too.
Oh, it's so good, man.
The what do you call it? Like the rapport between him and the priest.
Yeah, very good.
It is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Exorcist III. I mean, I think it's just a standalone. It's a fantastic movie if you want to use it as its own thing, or part 3. And it was cool to see that they got Jason Miller in it to kind of fill out the gaps of part 1. And that's the one thing you have to say about the Exorcist franchise. No matter which direction they take, they always try to make it make sense, right? They're linking it to the original. There's a lot of movies like Amityville where they're like, it has nothing to do with the original one, more or less, but except maybe the house. But I mean, with this, it's like even part 2, it's like you got Linda Blair, they're trying to connect it to the first one. Part 3, that comes all those years later, but then you still have they bring the Jason Miller in to finish that story. Then even with the sequels that we're getting, it's all connected to that first movie instead of just like using the title and doing its own thing, you know?
It has some genuinely, like, still to this day, creepy scenes in it too. The confession scene, like that's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole film, where the guys in, or the whatever you want to call it's in the confession booth, and then like as it goes on, you find out that it's not really like a person per se that's there, and like
have either of you guys read the original novel or anything?
No,
that would be one that I would pick up if I ever saw it. But the Lieutenant Kinderman character was a bit part in the original movie, evidently. I'm not even sure who he was. George C. Scott, of course, wasn't in it. It was some other actor. But they kind of went with his story as the lead, investigating these murders that look very similar to a serial killer, the Gemini killer, boss.
Yeah, based on the Zodiac killer,
who had been murdered, right? Or he'd already been executed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why
so it's like
it's
a
so
copycat.
weird. Yeah, they think it's a copycat. So the scene that always sticks with me in this movie, I know everybody always talks about the scene where the guy comes out of the hospital room with the head shears or whatever. And that's fine. And that scene's great. The scene that always sticks with me in this movie, aside from all the Brad Dourif stuff, is the part where the priest is killed and all of the bottles of his blood are like lined up in the room where they've all been like, taken, and like something about like he didn't spill a drop of any blood or anything like that. So all of his blood is just kind of like stacked up in the room, and it's crazy. Like that's just such a
bizarre. It does have a lot of really creepy moments in it. I mean, for a movie that's technically like a third of a franchise type of thing, to have that many effective moments is impressive. Like, you know, with the woman on the ceiling when she looks down,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
got-
yeah.
like that.
Old elderly
when I
woman.
dude, when I saw that as a kid and saw her up there, I was like, holy shit.
That's
'cause
been
it was-
ripped off how many times now?
That
by the
is
way?
very
Oh, yeah.
creepy.
That's been like,
We were on KB Loves Movies channel a couple nights ago, and he was talking about the cameo. We were talking about the cameos in and how odd they were, like the angel cameos.
oh yeah,
Patrick Ewing back in the day.
Fabio,
Yeah.
Patrick Ewing, Fabio. Who else did he say?
mentioned
Man, there was
Larry
a whole
King.
list.
Larry King wasn't an angel in it, but he was in it.
Yeah, and then God, there was others too. The guy from Georgetown College, the coach.
Oh yeah,
he was in it.
Wow.
Had a cameo in it.
Yeah, can't
I
remember
forget his
name.
name. Yeah,
But yeah, this is a great movie, but it's not going to be everybody's favorite. It's a slow movie too. You know, it's not a very similar to the original movie. It's kind of a slow burn. And originally there was no exorcism at all in the movie. And I think that there's two different cuts of the movie, right? Isn't there?
There's a director's cut and then the theatrical cut.
So the director's cut was originally the one that was supposed to be called Legion, I think.
Yeah, so there's no exorcist scene, I think, in the director's cut.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is 15 years after the fact, and he comes across Father Karras pretty much he's in this insane asylum, and he was, he knew him and everything, and he was like, well, hell, you've been dead for 15 years or whatever, and he's trying to figure out what's going on there. And then you see Brad Dourif he was the Gemini killer, right? Mm-hmm. And he's kind of taken over Karras, and he goes back and forth with the scenes. And I felt that, his performance in this movie is freaking amazing. And this is post child. He did the first Child's Play at this point, right? So he was kind of known for doing that. But yeah, I mean, great just acting performance in this too. I always thought that he was a very underrated actor.
No, I totally agree. I love this movie, and I know Matt's asking about the 4K
things about this movie. Like, some people will say that it's slow. Did Garrett pass away? What happened?
It is slow.
What's the matter? I'm not here?
It froze up on mine.
Where's Garrett?
Though.
No, you're fine.
No, I was saying Matt was asking about the 4K. I didn't get the 4K of this. It probably looks great, but I mean, I like the fact that these just kind of match together. So I'm just keeping these for now instead of upgrading. So I don't know if it's how much better it is.
Let me ask y'all a question about this movie. Is there any more disturbing scene that you can think of in a movie than that fucking, like, whatever that dream nightmare sequence is? Where, like,
I'm trying to think which one.
The one that has Patrick Ewing, like, where everything is like slowed down but also sped up. So they're like playing pianos. That woman's like playing piano and it's like sped up and shit. And then, like, you keep seeing people talking and like back and forth, but it's like I don't know how they did it. Like, I'm sure they did some sort of camera trick in reverse or something like that, but to make it look so odd, the movements are so odd in it. And that whole sequence, man, is just like, and it's got to be in the top at least 50 just kind of like scenes, that always just creep me out. But The Exorcist 3 is, some people say it's slow because of the beginning. It's more like a cop drama in the beginning, and then in the end of it, it really gets into the Exorcist part of it. But all in all, as like a film, it's just a general film, like a drama, like, it's a great film.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's a little bit slow, just like The Exorcist, like, I find those movies, like I talked about earlier, Rosemary's Baby, like, I find it's slow, but it's interesting. Like, it's a good story. There's good build up. The payoffs are worth it. I mean, some of the jump scares per se in this are some top notch ones. Like, there's, it's not obvious at all. Like that scene with that everybody talks about. I mean, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
No.
Well, it does have a
not when I not when I watched it first for sure.
It does have a good atmosphere. I think it did fairly well at the box office, all things considering. But why do you think that it was a good 14 years before there was another Exorcist movie? I mean, this one definitely didn't flop. There's $11 million budget, made 39 million at the box office in 1990. So that equals out to being like 91.8 million today. So it's definitely a pretty solid performance at the box office.
Do you think it just has to do with the hype of horror at the time? Do you think it has to do with the fact that, even though Exorcist II made decent amount of money, it was pretty, people didn't like it, right? So maybe do you think that kind of was a put off to like do anything else with that?
I think that there's a couple of things, and we'll talk about it as the show goes on. So, and I've always felt this, and I know you guys I like Exorcist 3 as well. But to me, Exorcist is the best example of a movie that should have never been a franchise. This should have been one movie. And the reason being is,
I think so too.
Man, you can't, where do you go? What else can you do? Like all of the exorcism movies that came out essentially have ripped off The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even including the sequel. I mean, where do you go? What more could you do with
You're right. And do you think that they use the name obviously to get this out there, right? Like it doesn't do well if it's just called Legion. Maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't. But then at the same time, you think about this came out in what, 90? So the 80s were just full of sequels. So do you think that they try to piggyback off that, where all these sequels of like these movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th and Psycho and all this other stuff with all the sequel game, they're like, oh, we might as well jump on that bandwagon, because even when part 2 came out, sequels weren't really a big thing.
That's true.
I
think part 3 might be the only film in the whole series that didn't try to capitalize on the name of The Exorcist for some reason. Like,
well, it already had the story. That's the thing. That's what it had.
Yeah.
Like they had the upper hand because William Peter Blatty was the guy that wrote the freaking novel, and he was the guy that directed the movie. So aside from
like, do you think they just used the name to get eyeballs on the product, basically? Like, it wasn't like they tried to rip it off or anything like that, but do you think that at the end of the day, they were just kind of like, let's slap the name on there because it'll get more people interested?
Yeah, I'm sure that was a studio decision where they were like, we're not calling this fucking thing Legion. Like, there's no way. We got to call it The Exorcist, or, to drum up more business, which ultimately probably worked. But I mean,
how much better do you think it would have been though if this was just part 2 of The Exorcist and they never made that?
Oh, better.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because essentially it is a direct sequel to the original movie.
Yeah, I mean, part 2, you do not need it to tell the story. It's unneeded. This kind of gives you the sequel that we're looking for, because it talks about what the hell happened at the end of part 1 when Karis jumped out the window. Like, it kind of follows all that.
Yep.
We didn't really need to see what happened to Reagan afterwards. It was already out of her.
And this was a weird time too. Like 1990, I think we were on the heels of like the horror boom was kind of dying off a little bit. Like, how many great horror movies can you name from like 1990 to 95? There's not a lot. There's not a lot. I can give you
a couple. There's a couple behind Garrett over.
Oh yeah, there is, but it's like one of those things that I think that they're more well loved now than they were when they came out, right? Like, Brain Scan is one. That's a great one. Shocker was what, 89. Dr. Giggles is another one, right? People Under the Stairs. Like, these are all great ones, but I don't know how well loved they were when they came out.
I'm not sure. I don't think any of them really were that well received, of the ones that we just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
They all kind of got a cult following like later on.
Right.
The early 90s is a very interesting time for the genre, because it was, and there's always movies that throughout the 80s, there were the boom of slasher movies. There was the Halloween movies, Friday the 13th, Elm Street and stuff. And when that died out, Child's Play, we'll throw Child's Play in there as well. But when that died out, like, and got kind of stale for everybody, it was a long time before that next big sort of thing came out. And It was Scream. That was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was the next big thing that came out that everybody fucking latched on to.
Sure.
And then a couple of years after that is the Blair Witch Project. But there was a long time period there for probably 6 or 7 years where there wasn't that big new thing that the genre could,
I'm going to tell you what
good.
happened, though. In my opinion, what happened with that. And I think that, like, because I remember being of this age when this happened, too. So I think the reason why horror took, like, a beating around that time was that was a time for, like, blockbusters of other kinds. Like, Home Alone came out first in 90, and that kind of, like, took over. Like, all the family fucking films started coming out. But then Terminator 2. Like, and all the action films, that was all you saw. Like,
well,
just
then Jurassic
action
Park
film
was
after
93.
action films and things like that. Yeah. So all of that, like, took a back seat. And then for a while there, it was the disaster films, Twister and all that crap, like 94 to 95. That kind of stuff became used.
Independence Day was a big one, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they started playing with some CGI and be like, oh, look what we can do, you know, with this. But in the early 90s, as much as they weren't over, like there's some real good movies that came out around then that no one ever talked about. Like Body Bags is a great anthology. Nobody ever talks about that. That was in the early 90s.
Jacob's Ladder is another one that's kind of underrated.
Yeah.
So I forgot that. That's in the 90s? Early?
1990, yeah.
Wow, I totally forgot about that being a 90s movie. I always assumed that was just 80s. Yeah, there was some good ones in there for sure.
But yeah, most of them were kind of underground. And I think
Oh,
horror, the genre itself, really stayed underground for a while. I think the only one I can think of that people were kind of digging in the early 90s was Candyman when that came out. But that, I don't think that was just a gigantic, like, it didn't explode like some of the other movies.
No, I think people found that a lot on, like, VHS and stuff. More than
But then the early 90s had some, maybe it was early to mid 90s, had some ones that people really just turned their nose to when it came to horror, like Werewolf in Paris. Like that was like jump.
Oh shit! Well,
remember?
I mean,
and I can remember that
get
being
the 4K to that.
Pretty hype too, right? And then all of a sudden people watched it, they're like, oh. So like there was a lot of turds mixed in the match too.
There was some bad stuff. You're right. Yeah,
bad, really bad.
But I don't want to go to this next part because I just don't want to do it.
I want to put these two together, man, because this is the same story. I don't know. This is like one of the biggest clusterfucks any studio, any major studio has ever done. So it started with Dominion. That was the original one. And Paul Schrader was the director of that. I think they had been trying to get a new Exorcist movie off the ground since like the late 90s, and they were just going back and forth with what to do. And some genius thought it'd be a good idea to follow Father Marin back in the fucking 40s, so you can see what all he did. You know, his first exorcism in Kenya or wherever the hell it was.
Honestly, though, it's in Africa somewhere. Honestly, though, it's one of the only parts of the Exorcist mythology that you could really explore, because they mention it in the first film that he had, like, you know, he had performed exorcism in Africa before, right? So it's one of the only things that, like, left
That don't mean you have to do it, though.
That's true, but I mean, they what else they
going
to do?
It was like a ballsy move, because I mean, who really wanted to go back to Africa in like the 30s and like follow
nobody?
Like,
that's
you know
an awful.
I mean?
Like, I was thinking about that when I was watching that movie. Like, what an awful time and place to set a movie in. Like,
I agree. Yeah. And it was in the dawn of like some CGI too, so like everything looked just so bad.
Yes.
Dude.
And
but
was
I will tell you
prequel
this
thing around this time? Was prequel? Was this like the prequel era? I don't.
What are we talking about? 2004,
2005.
Yeah,
2004, 2005.
Prequels were definitely around that time, weren't they? Because that's when, like,
what's some of the earliest prequels? Like the Psycho 4 is one of the really earlier ones. That was like 1990, I think.
Well, then they did like what was some prequels? But then
well,
they did like
the first prequel I can really remember taking off was that Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I was going to say they did the Texas Chainsaw, like, then they went back into the prequel of that. Yep.
2006, maybe, or maybe.
Yeah, that was after this. That was 2006. Yeah. But so,
I listen real quick though before we shit all over these movies, which is going to happen. I will say this. I liked the beginning of Dominion in terms of the scene where like you figure out like what happened that caused him to lose his faith or whatever. I like the idea. I like the execution of that scene.
That
And
scene's in
then-
both movies too. By
Yes,
the way.
it is. And then it steadily just goes nowhere after that. But that first scene, I was like, that's not bad. That's pretty decent. And then you just, yeah.
Well, the big problem is I finally found an actor that I hate more than Sam Neill, and his name's Stellan Skarsgård.
Is that dude related to those other Skarsgård boys?
Yes, Alexander Skarsgård's his dad, I think. I mean, it's his son or whatever.
Oh God! So he's wreaked havoc upon like just film in general, just his genes.
So,
and fucking...
so what? So you're saying Pennywise's dad is Father Merrin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like a new gimmick, like Father
That's
Merrin's
Bill.
son is
That's Bill
Pennywise.
Skarsgård. I don't know. Are they related?
They gotta be right. Like
Bill Skarsgård, Alexander Skarsgård.
It's not a normal name. That's
How many?
Yeah, that name is
are
not.
there?
Yeah.
Somebody look that up for us. But
make a meme with like a family photo of like Father Merrin with like a little baby Pennywise or something.
Just use that Pennywise from part 2 where they scream at it, like it turns into a little
here's some curse stuff though. John Frankenheimer was originally hired to direct the project, but he withdrew before filming started due to health concerns and died a month later. So this movie killed John Frankenheimer.
Movie killed. Yep, I can see why.
Paul Schrader, of course, replaced him. Upon completion,
I was trying to think like what has Paul Schrader done, but he's mainly known for he's a writer. He wrote Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. So I don't think director is like in his wheelhouse.
Keep in mind, this is $30 million budget. It's a gigantic budget for a horror movie in 2005, 2004. Studio rejected his version for being too slow, hired another director to retool the movie. And by retool the movie, shoot an entirely different movie with an entire different cast. Aside from, of course, they couldn't lose Stellan Skarsgård.
You can't get rid of him. That's the whole fucking show right there.
But imagine though, like him though, to think to himself, "Wait, I gotta do this all again?" Like,
he's getting paid again.
Stellan Skarsgård comes out and he's like,
"Hey, effing show!"
Fucking Rob Van Dam.
He's like going through. He's got to do like all his new lines again. Like, where am I?
He got paid for 2 movies. I would almost guarantee it because it's the same story, but it's 2 different casts, different sets. You know, fucking Rennie Harlan's version has the Rennie filter on it, right? It makes it look like something from the Sci-Fi Channel. You know what I'm saying? It has that look.
It does. It does.
Wait a minute. Who am I here?
Shit.
Real quick, Distorted Visions. Nobody knows what the fuck Mishima is, bub. So I don't feel like I'm in the wrong for saying that. I'm sure in your world, that's an amazing.
Vinegar Syndrome's like Mishima fucking
Mishima's in 4K.
That's what I wrote. But God bless you for liking whatever you like. But anyway, Dominion, like, how do you explain? I will try really quick to explain what I got from watching.
Good, because I didn't get shit.
This movie, okay? I'm gonna try to bring my camera in a little bit here so I can talk to you. So apparently, and this is not explained very well in Dominion, but is later explained better in the beginning. But once Father Merrin loses his faith after the whole Nazi scene where he's forced to kill a bunch of people because Nazis want him to, he becomes an archaeologist like Indiana Jones, which I swear to God is what I think they were going for.
Well, me too.
And,
both of them.
Yep. He finds a lost church that is buried underground that is supposed to be the church. You don't find this out until the beginning. It's supposed to be a church built on the spot that Satan fell to earth from. So, like when he's a fallen angel and all that stuff, that's supposed to be built on the spot.
That's the church.
That's the
Dr.
church.
Satan.
So the whole rest, yeah, that line's amazing too, by the way, in that movie. that's supposed to be this demonic church filled with all this kind of demonic artifacts and things like that, and that's where people like in Dominion. That's where this kid goes to be
through hellfire and brimstone in his church.
I knew that was coming. I was waiting. When he starts with the tongue, you know what's coming.
Do you think that maybe they like told him like, listen, do this. You're gonna do 2 movies. You're gonna be like the next Indiana Jones, and he was like, oh, I gotta do it. I gotta do.
Dresses like Indiana Jones.
I'm gonna be a star.
Aside from the fedora, man, he's Indiana Jones. Except he sucks.
Yeah.
Stellan Skarsgård's the uncharismatic enigma.
He doesn't do anything in the film except walk around and talk about like there's a subplot where I guess like there's this tribe that doesn't want them to dig this church up because they know like bad shit's going to happen, and he gets into like arguments and shit with them, but that really goes nowhere. Then this little kid, I think it's a kid, gets possessed.
And see the one that's when he's possessed, he's bald, and then when he's unpossessed, he has hair.
For some reason,
I got this ready, boys, because I saw this.
This is real. What he's getting ready to show you is real.
CGI in this is like, oh my God, there's like every CGI scene in it is like horrible. But yeah, this is supposed to be terrifying, folks. Real quick here, I'll put it up.
Somebody stop.
Oh God,
that's real.
That's actually in the movie. Yeah.
That's not.
Why does he have white nipples? Like, oh, we're gonna paint these white.
It's like a Dustin Rhodes gimmick in WCW.
yeah, like 7 or whatever it was.
Jeez.
So, yeah, that's the end of the movie, basically. Not that shot. That'd be awesome if that was the end of the movie.
Here it comes, folks.
Smoking
from parts unknown.
It looks like The Mask.
But just
it does. It's the white mask.
Father Marin versus the Mask. Book it.
It's
Marin versus the Mask.
Yeah. So I don't know where else to go with it because I don't remember how it ended. I watched it.
Look how evil and satanic is. It's got white nipples, folks. White nipples.
You know, that guy should do a convention or something like have that picture.
Yes,
he's sitting there like, remember me? I had the white mask on.
Look at this. Look how killer this shot was. I'll sign it for $40.
Somebody would buy the combo too. I guarantee it. They get.
I'd bring
like $60.
I'd bring a white paint pen and have him sign it with it.
Oh God.
I got to be honest with you though, man, because I'd always heard people say, you know, all the Dominion is the version you want to watch. That's the better version. I thought they were both awful.
Yeah, I don't agree.
They are both awful. I mean, now the beginning has more with the possessed girl, right? That's the difference.
Yes, that's the only real difference in the movie, honestly. Like, other than they recast the entire thing except for Seltzer, but the plot is basically the same. They find the church, yada yada yada. He's an archaeologist, blah 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 blah. It gets to the end. The woman, you think the little kid's going to get possessed, but the actual, like the woman that's the love interest or whatever, gets possessed and runs around and actually does exorcism-y kind of things, right? Mm-hmm. So she's like talking like that and saying, you know, you don't want to fuck me and all this stuff, you know, just the kind of typical exorcism.
Oh, there's a killer line in it. I don't know if we can say it on Garrett's channel. I took it. Let's see.
Can we spell it?
Spell it.
Yeah, I can bleep out the dirty words, right? So you want me to shove your rotten blank up her juicy blank.
And this is in the beginning, right?
No,
that's in the beginning.
That made it so much better. That made it worse by 1,000 times. I want you to know.
Well, and then, I gotta say, the possessed woman in the beginning, though, she was
good looking. Yeah,
yeah.
The possessed woman at the end, where she's like showing her tits and stuff.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That was okay.
Insane.
That was okay.
Yeah. Now I saw the beginning the first night it came out in the theaters, and I can remember being super disappointed with it, but it flopped, right? It was a big disaster.
They both flopped. Yeah.
Well,
that's why they brought Dominion back, because they were like, oh shoot, our version did awful, so let's bring this back to see if it does any better, and it flopped again. So,
well, Dominion only had like a very limited box office. Like
but
they
talk
didn't give it a
about
wide release.
yeah, but talk about losing money between the both movies, then to try to put it out and it not
Yeah.
making anything.
What a weird idea, though. By the way, like we were talking about this earlier, like I don't think it's ever happened before or since where, like, you make a movie, it sucks, you realize it sucks, you have the whole thing redone, and then you put that out and it bombs. So you're like, let's go back to the movie that sucked that we already like said sucked
Yeah.
and put it out too, just to see if it does anything, and it bombs. It's like, Jesus Christ, man.
I mean, they really had their high hopes for this prequel, didn't they? The fact that they kept trying.
They wanted it to work.
Well, honestly,
really
though,
bad, clearly.
So $50 million budget for the beginning. And that's $20 more than Dominion. So a total of $80 million was spent on these movies. The worldwide box office 2004 for the beginning was 127 million. So it definitely made a profit. The box office for Dominion it was like a very limited release, like only in big cities. It did like 251,000. I think the point of them releasing that was possibly like DVD sales or something, because the movie was already done.
I don't know.
They had already spent 30 million. What was it?
I didn't see it in the theater. I only saw Dominion when it came out on DVD. This was the first time I checked it out. I didn't even realize that it had a theatrical run, so it wasn't anything around me.
The Exorcist. He might have a point.
Yeah.
I thought Christian liked fucking the Believer.
I think he's starting to turn on it. I think.
I hope so.
He's coming over to the dark side.
I watched it again recently because Piper wanted to watch it, and I was like, I don't know why you want to watch this, but I'm going to let you watch this just to teach you a lesson about listening to me. And then she watched it and then was like, holy shit, that's awful. And I'm like, I told you. Now listen to your father. Or this is what happens.
Truthfully, though, Believer is like a gazillion times better than either one of those prequels.
Do the quote that you said the other day. He said, Exorcist, what did he say? The Dominion and the beginning make Exorcist Believer look like Shawshank Redemption. That's the quote.
That's what he said.
Yes. Yes. And man, like, talk about a stupid move from Blumhouse, though, honestly. Like, and I was looking at this too. So the movie itself, Believer, we're going to go into it because who the fuck wants to waste more of their time even talking about those damn prequels? There's a reason it seems like those movies don't exist anymore.
I told you this, and I believe this, so you disagree with me, but this is how much I hate these movies too. When I was watching Dominion, it reminded me of me trying to watch the fucking Phantom Menace for the first time. It's the same type of movie where there's just nothing going on, and it's a lot of dialogue, a lot of CG and stuff like that. The only difference is there's like at least some action at the end of the Phantom Menace, but like it's, to me, just reminded me of the same kind of movie. You're just bored to tears, like trying to get through it. I hate those fucking prequels, by the way.
Now, wasn't there something in the prequel didn't he like find that little thing and like he dropped it in the sand, which then he finds in the first one?
Oh yeah, the little Pazuzu thing.
Like they had to do that. Like they're like,
yeah,
oh,
they had to have that in
later.
there.
Of course.
By the way, when did those Star Wars prequels come out? Because that might have been what started the prequels.
That was before.
That was that was like 99, I think, the first Star Wars.
So that's what it was,
man. And honestly, like I'm not a big fan of those prequels either, but Phantom Menace is the best one of those prequels.
The congressional debates in the Phantom Menace were pretty interesting.
They did a lot more of that in the other.
I didn't like Phantom Menace.
Man, that movie, that movie's boring as fuck, Garrett. You know what?
Phantom Menace?
I don't like Phantom Menace. That's what I'm saying.
I think the other two were more entertaining than Phantom Menace was.
Yeah,
but Phantom Menace had to have come out in like, dude, I think I was only like I was in early high school, so that might have been 96 or something that one came out.
99 says MTH,
Oh,
bro.
99?
Yep.
Great.
So, if anything started the prequel trend, it was definitely those movies.
Darth Maul was cool.
That's and then he showed up again in
the
Insidious,
pod race scene too. That's a good one.
That's true.
I think like the other ones had fucking Hayden Christensen in it.
No, I can't do. There's no way.
Yeah, you can. You always do.
I mean, I can do it, but like, I don't think I could sing it right now, man. My voice is completely fucking shot right now. Anyway,
shot from what? Yelling at.
He's been
yelling
yelling
at them fucking kids for watching Believer. Yeah.
How about an acapella version?
All right. I'm dancing with a corpse. I must be losing my mind, but I'm dancing with a corpse. Spell up a matter hard. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah.
Corpse.
Corpse.
Dancing with a corpse.
He was yelling at Pazuzu.
So,
Anyway.
all right. But
I don't want you to dare talk something good about this movie, motherfucker. Like,
I
don't want you to try.
I'm looking at the financials. I don't understand because, okay, the movie itself, and this is really interesting to me, $30 million budget, right?
Hold on one second. This is fucking killer. That's right. Yeah, if we have to go back and do anything like that, I'm just gonna take the car off the road. Fucking on the road. Off the road.
The Exorcist Deceiver.
Oh, God.
It may have a shot. If David Gordon Green's not directing, it may have a chance.
He's not going to be, I don't think. But anyway, get into it. Get into this shit so we can get over with. God.
How does this make any sense? $30 million budget just for the movie, right? But it was $400 million for them to purchase the rights for a trilogy from Warner Brothers, whoever the hell owned it.
Mm-hmm.
What? This movie has only made $52.6 million to box office. It's already on demand to rent. It just came out in the theaters, 3 weeks ago?
That's how much it only made? I heard it made way more than that. Wasn't it like 300 something?
No, 52.6 million is what I looked up today. Somebody can double check that, but
you could be right. You could be right.
Yeah. With a $30 million budget, and I mean, it did make its money back on the budget, but damn, $400 million rise.
Yeah, I mean, that's an expensive buy for that. But I mean, you got to look at it too. Yeah, that's going to be tough because if it's only made 52, that means the other two have to make way more to get to 400, and that's just to break even, right? So,
yeah, unless
let me ask y'all a question though about this.
Yeah.
This, who would you get to do the next one if it's not David Gordon Green? Like, who would be somebody that could actually pull that off?
I think the problem that some of the problems that I have with it is it's we're running into the same problem we had with Halloween, which again, I'm fine with the Halloween trilogy. I mean, obviously it's not like the first 3 Halloweens, but it is what it is. I mean, the same thing with this. Like, I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was, I'm not comparing it to The Exorcist. I thought it was just, it's fucking what we get in 2023. I wasn't expecting any more or less really from it. My only problem though is like, is there already a story, or is someone going to come in and just do something totally different? Like, that's what's annoying about what this Gordon Green does is he's saying he's going to do 3 movies, but he has no like big story to tell. It's like he's just winging it. Like every time it's time to do a movie,
yeah.
right? So like that's my problem. Like, why are we doing 3 Exorcist movies if you're going to bring someone else in to direct? Like, there should already be a story done. There should already be like a concept, like to bring someone else in. Like, just I hope it's just to direct a story that's already written where we know what's going to happen with this world that he's building here. That's my concern. Is it going to be like kills and ends where we're just throwing shit at a wall and being like, oh, well, you know, those girls that were in the first one, well, they're not here anymore. Their story's over. We're going to do something else. That's where the problem I'm going to have with it.
Okay,
That's
so
the thing too,
let me clear this up though. It was 54 million domestically and 53 million overseas. So 107 million. But still,
That's still not good for that movie. Like
right.
by any stretch of the imagination, that's not good. That movie was projected to make well over like 300 million worldwide.
I mean,
It's
there is
nowhere
still
near
a,
that.
a story to tell with, I as a whole, I was fine with it. I mean, it has its problems, of course. I mean, there's tons of problems in it. But I actually, and I know a lot of people like that the last half. I thought the first half, I would love to expand on the story of like, what did these girls, what was happening to them between the time they went into that tunnel to the time they were found in that barn? Like, I want to know that story because that missing persons part of the movie, I actually really liked. I liked that more than I think when McNeil showed up, that's when I feel like shit started to get real bad. Like I actually liked until she got here, and then I was kind of out of it. Like that last exorcism scene to me wasn't that great. I was more just
I mean, I can't think of anything about that movie where I was like, "This is a good use of film."
I think
I try, but I can't.
The premise of the movie, had it been made by somebody that could write a good story, I mean, there was maybe hope for it, and you could have extended it out further and developed it. And David Gordon Green, man, what I hate about him is there's no plan in between these fucking movies that he does.
That's what it feels like, correct? And that's my problem with it.
I think we're in the middle of like one of the biggest pranks of all time. I think David Gordon
He
Green
sounds like a big prankster.
is fucking punking the studios. Like I don't think he has any idea what he's doing, but he just keeps convincing people to let him make movies. Even more so than Rob Zombie, I think. After like these last 3 movies that he's made, he's just running around doing whatever, man. He don't know what he's. He's just like,
Yeah, there's no plan
Yeah.
going into it. And with Exorcist Deceiver, like I have no idea where you would go with a story on that.
I hope he. I honest to God hope that they don't do anything from that past movie except if they want to do something with Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn or something. But I hope the whole rest of that shit is just completely gone.
I mean, you do, but I guess it could. Like, it could be somewhere else now, or whatever. But then you're wondering, like, does that girl who died, like, is she really dead? Does she come back? Do they explore what they were going through between, like I said, the time that they were possessed, and does that girl's story continue? Does Linda Blair try to find Pazuzu and have by the end she's having a battle like Laurie Strode did with Michael? Like,
I swear to God, man.
Plan?
I swear to you, I think that would be his plan. Like, I think the plan is to basically recreate what he did with Halloween and make Linda Blair the Laurie Strode character. Of course, she can't fucking take a shotgun to the devil or whatever, but like, there's got to be something where, yeah, she goes and like hulks up somehow or another, learns from some
She's
sort
gonna
of
get a
shaman
squirt
or,
gun with holy water in
No,
it.
she's gonna get a crossbow and put on her leather outfit. How sick would that be?
killer. The crossbow's like tipped with holy water.
That would be so sick. She comes out as like Savage Streets Blair, and you're like, whoa, I'd mark out for that.
It's like David Gordon Green's movies are like, do you remember those like from, well, I think they were even from the 70s, the paint by numbers kits that you could get.
Yeah.
That's what his movies are.
It's like something a little kid would make. Like if you just gave a little kid like permission to make a movie and like they thought about the easiest ideas for those, that would be like what they'd come up with.
Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little cringy at that was pretty cringy, and you could tell that a lot of that was shoehorned in, basically to him be like, "Hey, look I got them back." Well, but they said he had to give her a lot to get in there, both of them a lot to get in there and be part of this because they didn't want to do it.
Well, he just had to make a huge donation to Linda Blair's Heart Foundation.
Yeah. So, I mean, would I like to see Linda Blair leading a lead role in a movie in 2023? I would like to see her back in a lead role. I mean, she doesn't do anything anymore. I wouldn't mind seeing her in some kind of important part of a horror movie. I actually would like it. I don't need her to wrestle Pazuzu, but I mean, I would like to see her involved because I just haven't seen Linda Blair in a lead role in so long. It would just be nice to kind of have her career.
How would you do that though? I mean, like
I'm telling you.
Jamie Lee Curtis was at least, she's a regular, she was still acting on a regular basis.
It could be bad. Linda Blair could not have acting chops anymore. I mean, I don't know, and that's the risk that I think they're going to have to take because
I'm telling you, man, like what they need to do. She comes out, she's got the fucking Gatling gun from Predator. She got it strapped around her. She's just like, anybody possessed, she's mowing them down like in the jungle scene.
Though, stuntman Mark didn't even recognize her because of
he did. He had no idea that's who that was.
How much she had aged or whatever. And I guess you see a movie.
Thin, she's old,
yeah.
And it's so funny too because it's so interesting to watch her on screen, even as a younger girl. Linda Blair is like literally like what 5 feet tall, like in real life. But in all of her movies, she never looked that tiny. Like she always kind of looked bigger to me, like taller than that. Like even if in Savage Streets, like she was like looked like she was towering over all the other girls walking down the street.
That's true. That's that Danny Steinman
so
format. Yeah, he made it that way.
I don't know. I'm intrigued, but I'm nervous because even the same thing, like I'm not one of those people that hates Halloween Ends. I think it was a real bad decision to end a franchise like that. It still doesn't make any sense to me. I'll never forgive it for that. But I mean, that's why I'm just curious on like what's the end goal here? And is there one, or are we just gonna wing it? And if that's the case,
he's gonna wing it, man. I don't think it's clear from that movie that he has no cohesive kind of vision for what he wants to do.
Here's what I would do.
But how embarrassing is that as a filmmaker who's got that much behind him and him be like, we're doing 3. And then in the back of your head, how much of a fraud do you feel like where you're like, I have no plan here?
I'm amazed, honestly, though, that like he's been able to do as many like big movies as he has after. So Halloween 2018 comes out and I still stand by
makes
that
a
movie.
ton of money.
I still think that movie's
ton of money.
It makes a ton of money. And then, so of course they're going to let him do whatever. So he makes Halloween Kills. Not great in my opinion. Makes Halloween Ends also not great in my opinion. Makes Believer not great. Like he's had 3. I'm pretty sure at some point they're going to figure out like this guy is really not like making decent movies.
He's getting over like a turd in a punch bowl, like a fart in church. Bulls.
He's got fucking Xbox heat at this point. Like
I would just be like, if they're going to hire him to do 3 movies, I would like to see show us the plan before we start going here. Because
I would imagine they probably want him to at this point.
In what world do you write a full 3 movie story and Halloween Ends is the end of it? You'd be reading and be like, what the hell's going on here? And
they've got too much
before it came out,
the
they're all like, you're going to hate this movie. Then why make it then?
The studio is going to be out their
Bringing Rob
ass
Zombie.
unless this second one. Dude, like as much as I talk shit about Rob Zombie, you cannot deny he has diehard fans, and they're freaking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't, if I was running the studio, I would get Rob Zombie before I'd get David Gordon Green.
I would like to see Rob Zombie get a little stab at an Exorcist movie, to quite honestly.
That'd be so hilarious, man.
I would love that, man.
It would be so over the top. It'd be great. Like I can't even say what Reagan would say in the movie she got possessed on this panel right now, but it would be amazing.
Here's what you would do with Deceiver, in my opinion. So there's fan fiction everywhere. There's nerds everywhere that write all these stories. Go through all those stories. What is the best Exorcist sequel you could make that a fan has wrote the concept for? Use that as the base of the story. Have Rob Zombie visually, it's going to look freaking good. Right?
Yeah.
He can visually make, beautiful movies and everything, but don't have him write the damn thing.
No, he's not a good writer. It's always been his problem. He can't end movies well at all. I think like every movie has like I think the only one that had a somewhat decent ending was like Devil's Rejects, but yeah, but he visually makes them look good. And like you said, people love him. People would go see it. I don't know what the plan is. I know what's his name is another one that people are talking about. The guy who did Terrifier. He's another one that's names getting thrown around for like Friday the 13th remake.
I can see that.
Different sort of movie though.
Sure, but I'm just curious to kind of see like someone like him getting involved, Damien Leone, and I don't know. I would be interested, but I don't know who they get now. You know,
I would like to see. And here's the problem: I don't know if you need somebody with a name, but they probably would want to go with somebody with a name. But I feel like a dude like Robert Eggers or Mike Flanagan, somebody like that, could do like a serious Exorcist movie that actually would work.
Mike Flanagan's one that they need to give a big movie like that too. Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think they'll give that to either one of those guys because I don't think they have enough name recognition.
I'm curious though because I don't see them putting that much faith in David Gordon Green after this first movie.
No, I don't either.
They've got too much on the line. You know that they're going to have $30 million per movie, probably budget wise, and they've got that $40 million rights that they paid. Like, you've got to have a gigantic hit with this next movie, or I don't even know if you would make a third movie. You're just wasting more money, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They have to have a bang, but it's tough to be this far behind now and be like, okay, the middle of a trilogy needs to be really sick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a tough road to be in right now because you're supposed to be in the middle of a trilogy, which you can only do so much.
You know what they're going to do because I kind of can predict what they're going to do. In the fact of like, because it was so critically and poorly received, they're going to do away with the whole storyline with those kids in the next film. I guarantee
so?
it.
I mean, I don't know. Does anybody know if those girls, or at least the one girl, has signed on for multiple movies or not?
That's Rosemary Jaretta. They signed her for a 3-picture deal. Can't do that.
But I mean, I don't know. Like, if I'm looking at the way Halloween was done, and like I'm thinking to myself, well, the part 2 is going to be the batshit crazy one, because when you look at Kills was just like a gore fest for that. Like, it really was just like Michael doing his thing because they didn't need to end it. Whereas this one going to be like off the walls, and then all of a sudden part 3 is to kind of close it off. I don't know.
Yeah. It goes back to what I was saying. I think the real curse of the Exorcist franchise is it should have never been a franchise.
Sure.
Because ultimately that first movie made just a ginormous amount of money. But the other ones, they would be meh when it comes to, if we put them on a tier scale.
I love
when it
Ty
comes
West.
to Ty West. He's another one that's really good, but I don't know if his style would work with the Exorcist movie.
It's hard to make. Like you said earlier in this, like, how the fuck do you even make another Exorcist movie? It's like, it's just one of those movies, man, where it's like, it's iconic. It's lightning in a bottle. I mean, they've tried to do it so many times now and never been able to really replicate exactly what made that movie great. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Same thing with Halloween. Like, there's just some movies that you just can't do it with. But at least with like Texas Chainsaw and with Halloween, you had a villain that you could market that was like,
and those made money.
Yeah,
right.
Because of that, because it had like an iconic one person like villain that you could like go back.
You didn't want to see more Pazuzu face.
This is the devil. It's like you can't.
Pazuzu.
You can't really build a franchise around Satan. Like,
yeah, you're right. Pazuzu's not like an iconic. You don't go to the store and see like, oh man, Trick or Treat Studios has a Pazuzu mask.
Pazuzu dies tonight.
You don't really see that.
Dies tonight would be so killer. Yeah.
So you're right. It's a hard thing to market as a franchise or a trilogy because there's no real character to market.
Plus, I hate to say this, but this is true. These movies aren't effective anymore because like we're not in the 70s and people are not as religious now as they were. They're just not.
Well, to see what they did now, they tried to show you all the religions can kind of.
Oh shit! That's it. Don't even get me started on that.
No, there was a lot. There was a lot of stuff in there like that I have some issues with when it comes to, hidden agendas. I think in some aspects of the movie, but
they brought in like a Wiccan and they brought in like a fucking Pentecostal guy and a Baptist. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Is this like the Paw Patrol of like exorcisms?
They brought in
the
Dwayne Gill of Exorcist in this. He just completely jobs out. Yeah. immediately.
Well, then they, David Gordon Green always has those characters. That's usually like, it's usually like the dad or something. That's just like the biggest doofus or whatever. Like, in his movies, which I don't like those kind of. He tries to make them like a funny character, but it's a cringy character.
And I don't know
Like,
if we've talked to Garrett about this though too, but like, you could really edit the Halloween movies that David Gordon Green did in with this Exorcist movie. That's how close it looks.
I said that in my review. I said when they were outside before they went into that house to do the exorcism, I go, if Michael walked by, you'd kind of just assume it was the neighborhood he was in.
It's true,
It was the same aesthetic,
in the same universe.
Oh, definitely. You could easily cross those universes together. Like he's walking by killing people on Halloween, and inside there's like an exorcism going on in one of the houses, and he didn't realize. He just
Michael walks in during the exorcism, just cuts her throat.
That was
That'd be an awesome
my
movie, man.
daughter.
Watch that.
Oh shit!
I mean, to be honest, if they didn't lose the rights or get rid of the rights or whatever, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have been surprised if they tried to cross it over like Marvel or something like that,
But yeah, that is it, I guess, as far as the as far as ranking these movies, there's no comparison. I don't even think it's worth ranking.
I don't even know how I would rank them. Like there's so
I can
many
do it.
bad ones.
1, 3, Believer. 2, Beginning Dominion.
That's not bad. I mean, that's not a bad ranking. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'd about agree with that. I think the first one is so far ahead of all the other ones, though. Like that's the thing. Like I want to go back to is like the first one was such a gigantic success. Nominated for Academy Awards and everything. Revolutionary type of movie, the first of its kind. There's no way, even to this day, and then there's all kinds of exorcism movies and shit that comes out, a few of them a year. And they're all ripping off the original Exorcist movie.
But you look at it, what more can you do though? That's the thing. Like what else can be shown or said? Like even on some of the Exorcist movies like that I've seen, not Exorcist, but possession movies that I actually think stand out of being a little bit different are still the same at the end of the day. Like
somebody has to get possessed and somebody has to come in to like unpossess them.
There's a good one I just brought up not too long ago. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it was like it started out kind of like there's a cop and like there was like these murders and killings going on, and then you come to find out one of the dudes was possessed. It came out probably within the last 10 years, and it was really, I think, underrated. I just talked about it too on I did like a reel.
Well, who was in it? You remember?
No, I'm gonna I can look it up right now, but it wasn't bad, but again, it was very it was different enough, but at the end of the day, they still had to try to do an exorcism on this guy. What the heck was it called? Somebody in the chat.
Exorcist.
No, I tried watching that. It was kind of shitty.
Damn, there was another one that I watched. I can't even remember the names of. It was a female exorcist in it. It was in the theaters too. Damn it, what was it? Pray for the Devil or something like that was the name.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that.
That was one of them. Yeah,
no good.
Shoot,
I saw one like that in the theater that was awful too. What was the one that had the nun on the front of it? Like it was just looking to the side. That one came out like about.
Deliver Us from Evil with Eric Bana. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yes, thank you, Punisher Batman fan.
Devil Inside. That's like a shot.
That wasn't bad though. That was okay. Like the connect cut, so she had like the things in her lips or whatever. Connect cuts.
Super chat, super duper from Scott Temple, boss. Not Exorcist related. What are your thoughts on Hellfest from 2018? Really wanted a sequel to that one. Budget was $5.5 million. Box office was $18.2 million. I'm not sure if I've seen Hellfest.
Isn't that the biker one?
What's up, Scott? No, Hellfest I think was the one that took place in almost like, was it like a fun house or something, like a carnival or something like that?
Oh fuck, I may have never seen that actually.
Hellfest.
It's actually pretty. It's actually pretty good. It's actually a pretty good movie. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's out on Blu-ray and stuff too. But I'm pretty sure that's the one that takes place in like a fun house or a carnival or something like that.
I'm thinking that I've seen that, but for old time's sake, since we're talking about David Gordon Green,
Hawkins, what's going on in here? Did we get a super chat again?
Yeah, and Maya. I like Last Exorcism. I thought that was kind of a cool movie.
I did too the first time I saw it. I really thought it was like different and enjoyed
And
it.
I know we haven't watched I know you wanted to show the trailer for the show, right?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about the show. How could we do that?
I've never seen the show, so I don't even think I've ever seen a trailer for it. I know nothing about it.
So this show, let's see if I can find anything about the show here. It came out in 2016.
I've heard it's actually decent, but like nobody really watched it.
2016, 2017, 20th Century Fox developed a television series of The Exorcist designed as a continuation of the film. The premise was described as a propulsive, serialized psychological thriller following two very different men tackling one family's case of horrifying demonic possession and confronting the face of pure evil.
Shit.
I got the trailer here. It's the Comic-Con teaser trailer, Bulls.
There's nothing scarier than propulsive psychological horror, let me tell you.
Was Linda Blair in this show?
No.
She wasn't in it at all?
It stars Alfonso Herrera and Ben Daniels.
That blow your mind.
Oh, hell, Ben Daniels.
Fucking Alfonso Herrera.
It's like a minute 47
The
seconds.
guy from Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of America's funniest home videos guys now. Gina Davis was in the pilot episode, so they at least had her. Anyway, here we go, boys. Here's the teaser Comic-Con trailer.
Father Marcus.
What do you want?
I was told you were an exorcist.
Who exactly told you that?
Does it matter?
Yeah, I think it does.
I'm terrified.
I'm not a crazy
Locust.
person.
I'm not saying you're crazy.
There is something inside my house. It's a demon.
Angela, demons aren't real. They are metaphors.
It's trying to take my daughter.
Shut your ass, fucking Gina Davis.
I unleash a demon every morning in the bathroom.
You can't even begin to understand. Father Tomas, the rising star.
I think God spoke to me today.
What did he say?
He said, I want you to help his family.
Anybody up there?
You're afraid?
Yeah, you should be too. Look upon me, Marcus.
Oh! Hell yeah.
Same thing. How do you make how can you have a running show of exorcists? Does the guy just run around and just like exorcise like all these possessed people? Like, I'll fix you next episode. I'm gonna fix this kid over here. Like, how do you make that a show? That's not understand.
It looked awful.
That looks like something I've never watched.
Yeah, it didn't look like anything I'd ever want to watch.
I don't know, like something that would have been like a Lifetime or something like that.
Gina Davis is like Sigourney Weaver in Ghostbusters. There's something in my house. Come on, help me.
Oh,
Dynamite
thanks, dude.
Tiger, $4.99 super chat. Y'all both stay out of trouble now. Appreciate it, man.
Jennifer Coolidge.
Gina Davis, yeah, she's getting older though. How old is Gina Davis?
Y'all
She's
leave
got to be
Gina
like
Davis
60.
alone.
Got to be in her 60s.
Yeah, she's
right?
got to be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything, real quick, we can go through them. But ultimately, I mean, you guys, as a franchise, does The Exorcist? Do you consider? I mean, technically, I guess it is a franchise.
It's definitely a franchise. Like I said, at least it's a franchise that is trying to be a franchise, right? Like everything is connected more or less. And as much as Gordon Green, I think, was like, oh, let's pretend this one takes place after the first one. It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to take place. It could take place after part 3 and these ones still be the prequel. Like there's no reason to. I hate when they do this when they come out with new trilogies. They try to like X some of the other ones. This is perfectly fine. It doesn't change a thing. You can have Reagan go to that thing. Her and her mom get in the fight in part 2. You can have Jason Miller show up in part 3. It does nothing to believe her. I don't know. I just hate when they try to vanish these other movies as much as they're good or bad. At least this all tries to connect with itself more or less. So is it great? No, but between 1 and 3 in there, I think it's pretty good to have those part of it.
I figured out what they're going to do with Deceiver. Here's how they're going to do it. They're going to have some podcasters want to interview Reagan.
God, I fucking hope not.
And Reagan's like in the backwoods somewhere in Georgia. And she's like,
I've been living here.
She's preparing for Pazuzu's return.
Yeah. She's got a basement that like locks and shit.
Yeah. And then when they show up, she has to like do tests on them to make sure that people trying to get in aren't possessed.
Yeah.
Just throwing holy water on them just to make sure that they're
she's got like
safe.
one of those baby pools of holy water in her basement, and it's like a trap door. If Pazuzu comes in.
You go, goddamn. She's got a moat around her house of like holy water. Yeah.
How sick would it be though if all of a sudden it get to a point where Pazuzu like didn't have to go in people's bodies? He's just like the face, and he's like running around as like a slasher now.
This is harsh. Planet CHH. Ultimately, I think the Exorcist franchise needs to be in the same place William Friedkin is now in the date.
Would you like to see Pazuzu running around as like a new slasher? Like he's just like a guy in a black like singlet with like a white face.
I would rather see that at this point than I would anything else that he's going to do.
It's
I'm
you,
sure.
Pazuzu.
Exorcist 7, not a Pazuzu. TJ Frizzy said that Gina Davis is 67 years old.
Wow.
Big John and Little John. They could be in the next.
It's true. The Exorcist steel box is going to be sick. Yeah.
When is that coming? Somebody announce that?
No, but I'm sure it's gonna. If it's anything like the nice trilogy we got for the Halloweens, it'll be cool.
Do you see the Arrow announcements today? The Conan movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. I'll get that box set. Yeah.
Are you going to get the box set of both? Or are you going to get the limited editions of both? So they're two different.
Oh, shit. Yeah, what do you think, motherfucker? What do you think he's going to get?
No, I'm going to get the box with them both in there.
He's going to get the box gold plated, dipped in diamonds.
Yeah.
You know,
well, technically, I think the limited edition ones are nicer. They're in that thick box.
No, they are, but
sniff.
I know you like thick boxes.
Space saver. I like when they're together. I like when things are together.
What about the Carrie limited edition?
Nah, I'm not going to get that. I have the 4K from Scream. I'm not buying
it. Don't lie. Don't sit here like
I always like to. I encourage people to toss all the Scream Factory stuff if somebody else does it.
Let me ask y'all a question though, because Matt brings up a good point. If they put out an Exorcist box set, it had all the films in it. Somehow or another, they got like the rights from all these different fucking companies.
Yeah.
Would you get it? I mean, with like Dominion and the beginning, and
I mean, I kind of wish that they'd. Yeah, I mean, I wish
like
they would have had
put
that
out the first 3 in a box set, and then do like just maybe like a double feature of those 2. That'd probably be a better idea.
Did you guys order the Exorcist Bible set by any chance?
No.
Well, mine's still stuck in like the UK. People are getting theirs. Mine hasn't even freaking moved. I'm like waiting for Amazon to cancel my damn order, which will really piss me off.
Is it actually including the real Bible?
Yep.
No, but the box is a Bible, and they open the Bible and all the stuff's inside. It looks actually really, really nice.
Mark's got one from Germany that's an actual Bible from Lithuania.
He probably does. Did you see he posted his house the other day on Instagram? It's pretty sick.
Oh, did he get moving in or something?
He's got this like neon glow in the dark pool and stuff like that. He's guy's out of control. He's in the middle of the woods.
Are you sure that wasn't just a green screen that he was putting up?
I don't know. He was walking around showing it on his phone. He's killing it.
So, all right, guys. But yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. This was a multi-stream. I know we didn't really talk about much of that, but both Born to Be Rad and Dead Pit channels, subscribe to both because we're always doing our separate sort of thing as well. And CHH is getting it. That motherfucker buys everything. He's already got his cuddly Dudley Joe Spinell.
I know. I thought for sure mine would be here today after he told me, and it's not. I got we don't have to do this now, but I got this today, and I have no idea what I got. I have no clue what's in here.
It's the October stuff, right?
That's that's the bundle. If you got the bundle in it,
I don't know. I don't remember what I bought. Did you get yours yet, or no?
I got it's down at the post office because I have to have everything delivered to the fucking post office now, rather than at my house.
Damn pill heads.
I'm gonna see what's in here.
You want to do an unboxing here? I'll put you on the sub.
Let's get a little live unboxing. Okay, let's see. Ugh. There's a lot of stuff in here. What the? I don't even remember ordering some of this stuff.
Yeah, you know it's bad when you start forgetting what the hell you ordered.
We Kill for Love. Have no recollection ordering that.
What the hell is that, Garrett?
Rabid Grannies. Look at it's got the lint.
You had to get Rabid.
That is killer.
Come on, yeah.
I really don't remember pressing buy on all this stuff, to be quite honest with you.
Mother's Day. I can't wait to get that.
You would think they would release Mother's Day in May, though. It kind of makes sense. People don't.
I bought a lot of shit. I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, that unboxing video you did the other night, you opened about 75 different.
Oh my god, dude!
I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's just shit he's got in the last 2 weeks,
dude.
What the hell?
It's so much stuff.
That one is the one I'm looking forward to the most, honestly.
Blood fucking freak, baby.
Do you guys? I'm gonna be 100% honest. I don't remember ordering any of this. Like, I don't remember buying this much stuff.
I'm not surprised, Gary.
You're smoking some of that good stuff that night. That's what it was.
Great one.
Mark of the Devil.
What? Oh yeah, this is that one, Crystal Magic or whatever. Remember we watched the trailer? It looked like
yeah,
Magic Crystal. Yeah, I'm excited for
that's
that
going
one.
to be awesome too.
That's probably about $400 worth of movies there, ain't it?
Knew you were getting that.
Yeah. And that's it. That's it. So I got quite a bit. I got 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's pretty much the October bundle, right?
7, 8.
You should count them like the count in Sesame Street.
1.
One Blu-ray.
Oh my god. Jeez.
But some stuff that we've got coming up on the channel. What do you got coming up, Garrett?
Actually, I've been meaning to drop my Exorcist, history of Exorcist on home video and physical media. Been trying to drop that, but I keep waiting for this damn Bible set, and it just keeps getting pushed back. So it's either I'm just going to wait until I get it, or just do it and just show pictures of it at the end. I don't know, but I have that all ready to go. I have all my editions right there. I'm just waiting for that. I got Room Tour 2 coming, but I don't know, man. I might have to push it back because my room tour is a disaster now, that library room, because I have so much stuff again. So I'm like contemplating on like building shelves before I do the tour because there's stuff on the floor. And I hate that.
You need to do a purge.
I've tried, man. I just went to Bull Moose the other day and sold like $200 worth of DVDs and stuff. I'm trying, but so much stuff just keeps coming in.
It's too late.
Says that you should be ashamed for buying bloodshot.
Yeah.
I know now. I can purge the DVD in a tote somewhere.
They're gonna find Garrett at some point, like looking like laying down dead with a bunch of Blu-rays like just piled on top of him.
Blu-ray collapses.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I got a list of all my shows. So what else do I got? I've got I have Rad Dudes. We're gonna be doing Halloween specials, and we're gonna be doing that on Halloween night. Late though at 11, so I'll have that show. And then I've got another Rad Company show next Wednesday. So those are the big ones that I have coming up.
Cool. So we're doing on Sunday night the return of Sequelitis. This was requested by Baller and Shot Caller Carded or Dimension. We're revisiting Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Mm-hmm.
And this time I'm going to watch the director's cut. I watched the theatrical cut last year, director's cut this year.
And then the other one though, in this Sequelitis that I haven't seen. I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through, but I've seen like bits and pieces of it, and that's probably been 10 years ago. Is The Ring 2.
The Ring 2.
CGI deer.
Dude, I don't remember that movie at all.
Garrett's excited about that in 4K coming out.
Oh, man,
I'm
that box
actually
is nice, though.
very interested in seeing what that scene looks like in 4K.
Yeah.
I don't remember Exorcist II much. Ring 2 much at all. I saw it in the
I don't
theater.
either,
I
other
think
than
was
that
it.
scene. Yeah.
I don't even know the scene you're talking about.
Well, I'm not going to give it away, but we're going to do some sort of special coverage for that scene. I think I've got the DVD somewhere out there in storage, so I want to go old school with it. And then Halloween night, we're bringing back the big ass Halloween bash starting at 10 p.m.
Oh, you're doing a show Halloween night too?
Yeah.
What the hell? What are you doing?
Garrett's like, fuck.
What the frick?
Well, this is at 10.
I thought for sure. I'm like, nobody's going to be doing it on Halloween. So
the big ass Halloween bash fan commentary on Halloween 4, which we've never done before. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
I wouldn't worry about it, Garrett. Fan commentaries don't go over that well anyway. So,
But it is on Halloween night.
That's true.
So watch Halloween with the Dead Pit Bulls, or you can go and check out the Rad Dudes. I won't be offended.
So we'll be trying to unlock people's nostalgia and talk about all these 80s and 90s Halloween specials we all watched as kids that for some reason don't exist anymore. So,
and one other thing I wanted to plug. Right.
Wow, shit.
Our documentary is wholesale price on shop.deadpit.com, or no, deadpitonpatreon.com. For patrons, it's $10 shipped anywhere in the US. So if you want that, you can get it sealed. We'll autograph it for you and devalue it even further. So we're doing that for the Halloween week. And the shirt side is 35% off right now too. Shop.deadpit.com, shop.borntobirad.com too.
Oh yeah.
So
hell yeah.
Exit cheap plugs. But I really appreciate everybody joining us here tonight. We've had well over 100 people the entire show. And hey, The Exorcist, as a franchise, it's not as popular of a franchise. So I think that's a pretty damn good number to have all night. People interested in what we're saying about some of these shitty Exorcist sequels.
Mm-hmm. When's the RadPit documentary coming out? I think we're going to try to get together next year and film it.
We'll get Jay real and he's going to film it for us.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
All right, guys. But been a fun night. We appreciate everybody staying up late with us and everything. And we will catch you guys next time over at borntobirad.com and, of course, deadpit.com. Give us a thumbs up.
Up your butt.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a fuck.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. Click that bell.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. DeadPitOnPatreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows, fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.